Boys and girls, so today we're going into the second lesson of this week. By now you should have your flash draft number 1 on slide number 12. And again, slide 13 was just there in case you needed the extra space. So if you take a look at slide 14 in the teaching point, you know how much Mrs. Sutton loves Writer's Workshop and their dialogue, so humor me. It says teaching point. Writers often have in mind some crystal clear goals, not just for their writing, but for themselves as writers. That is, they decide how they want to outgrow themselves, and they set goals and strive to meet them. So basically what this is saying is you've got to make some goals for your writing with your flash draft number 1. One thing that they'd ask us to kind of go over with you guys is how to anticipate what's called counterclaims. That's just kind of like being ready for the argument before it happens. My entertainers are awake, as you can see. They were not in video 1 today. Anyway, so here's a situation. Say I go to Mr. Ruby and I want to take, I'm just going to pick a class. I want to take 4th period right before lunch to McDonald's. Before I go and sit down and talk with Mr. Ruby, I've got to anticipate some of his counterclaims. What are some things that he's going to come back at me and he's going to ask? So if you take a look, this is graphic here on slide number 16 just gives you some of the anticipated questions he would have. He'd ask me maybe how long it's going to take. Do they have enough space? I'm going to need a permission slip if I'm taking you out of school and all of that. So I've got to be ready to now come back with my claim, my original stance, and how I'm going to address his concerns. So I could say, well, I've mapped it out. I've already timed it, and this is how long it took me to walk from the middle school to McDonald's. That I've already talked to the manager, and we have permission in that time spot to come over. And then finally, I would have that permission slip. Maybe I email it to Mr. Ruby even before I meet with him. Again, this is me. I've got my claim. I want to take my 4th period class to McDonald's for lunch. I've got to be ready for those counter arguments. What is he going to come back to say to me? And I apologize again because I'm getting a lot of distractions in the background, as you can hear. So this might be my flash draft where I say, dear Mr. Ruby, here's my claim. I want to take my 7th grade class to McDonald's. I give him the information about how long we have. And then Mrs. LaRue and I would do this as a team effort. So we have it signed. And we've given him, again, already some of those answers to questions he might have. What I'd like you guys to do is just maybe think about in your own lives, say you're asking your parents' permission to go over to somebody's house or to go to play basketball in the park, even though it's raining out. You've got to anticipate what are some of the concerns that your parents might come back at you. You just have to be ready for them. Just be ready to have an answer, I guess, is what I'm getting at here. So as a little warm up, what I'd like you to do in slide 19 is just come up with something that you would ask permission to do from your parents. What do you think are concerns your parents would ask you? And then how would you prepare to then answer their concerns? Just have a game plan. Lawyers are very, very good at this. So now looking at slide number 20, it says, okay, well, let's take a look at this anchor chart. What I'll be doing on Classroom, I'll be posting 2 graphics. They're 2 different anchor papers that teachers have created. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm just going to bring up those 2 graphics so I can show you. Okay, so if you take a look at the screen now, these are the 2 anchor charts that I'll be posting. It just goes over how you organize your paragraph, how you have your claim, your evidence, and your reason, how you want to be ready for that counterclaim. Here's just another anchor chart that just shows you, and this is the kind of the so what here, and also talks to you about what a counterclaim is. That's when somebody from the other side is going to come at you with their opinion, and then you've got to be ready for what's called a rebuttal. I said rebuttal. That's where you're ready to come back with your argument, again, going back to your stance. If you're for social media, then you're going to make that statement again and why. If you're against social media, then you'll make that statement and why. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now. I have 2 special guests here that are going to demonstrate how to write an argument and how to look at claims and counterclaims. My nephew, Cameron, he's going to go with the claim that he feels that social media does have a negative impact. And then Owen is going to be the person who's talking about how social media does not have a negative impact. Are you ready? Okay. All right.
Am I out?
Yep. So Cameron, I need you in the shot too, so you can come over and counter argue him. I love children. Okay, go ahead.
Live.
It is live,
All
yes.
right, so I'm for social media, mainly because my generation And that's how we kind of like bond together. And the connections you can make off social media is like a positive impact for me. And I usually like use Instagram, Twitter, Snap, like all that, TikTok a lot. And it kind of like helps me communicate with my friends, like send funny stuff to each other, kind of like show off like what I'm doing and like where I am, and kind of promote like our teams, like say my basketball team or soccer team, like us winning and stuff. And it's kind of like a really cool way to like express yourself out. But like, I know there's a lot of things wrong with it, but like for me, like personally, the way I use it, it's just like, I don't know, it's amazing.
All right, so Cameron, what would be the other side to that argument? So you're saying that social media isn't the greatest thing. How so?
The other side is if you say anything like inappropriate or do anything that's not like very nice to someone, it's always still there. When you go for a job interview, they might pull that up.
Sure.
And Josh Norman, when he was in college.
Or even Josh Allen, Josh Allen, yeah. So you guys took a look at an article where Josh Allen, again, he's fine. He'll be okay. Josh Allen made some tweets when he was in college that came back to impact him when he decided to go pro. Owen, how has Josh Allen brought that back to a positive? So he took something that kind of went against, he was using social media maybe to help promote his career. It came back to haunt him. Now how has he changed that around?
He kind of is like brings a positive vibe to everyone now. Like on the team, like he's a great leader and stuff. And he kind of like before the draft, he like came out and said how sorry he was for all that. And he kind of showed how much of like a person guy he is. Like why the Bills are so like made the playoffs last year was all on him being a leader that he is. So.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. So again, when you're looking at Flash Draft number 2 today, your goal is to include a counterclaim. You actually want to include the other side of the argument, but then you want to go back to what your original stance was. So if you take a look at slide number 22, if we had been in school, I kept this before I changed it. It says that you can switch Chromebooks with a partner. What I'm asking is that if you can have somebody look over your flash draft, number 1. Certainly that could be me, but that could also be someone at your house. I would just ask that if you want me to take a look at it, that you send me a direct email so I can just pull up your presentation. But have someone take a look at it. And then ask them, just say, okay, what do you think is my best piece of evidence? Do you have any suggestions? And also, could you now start to think of, all right, who's going to say something on the other side of my argument? You might want to go back and look at the resources that I posted. Maybe take a look at, if you didn't use the Insta Live video for your stance, now maybe you bring that in. So you're bringing in evidence from the other side. For Flash Draft number 2, you're going to reflect on the feedback that you get from somebody. So again, have someone look over your Flash Draft number 1 just to take a look at it. Then say, okay, I've got to construct a new one. I have to include one counterclaim. Then I gave you some sentence starters down here just to help you. So you could say, some people disagree and they say this, critics argue, or I think the most common one that I saw used last year was that transition of, well, others may say that, and then you give their side. But again, then you come back to your original stance, your original claim on social media and today's youth. I'll be honest, for Flash Draft number 2, and you can actually skip slide 24, but you're going to actually put Flash Draft number 2 right on slide 25. You can literally copy and paste, because I'm assuming you've made changes in Flash Draft number 1. You can literally copy and paste what you have in Flash Draft number 1 to Flash Draft number 2, with one exception. Whatever you add as your counterclaim, I actually need you to put that into a different color font. That's something that you're adding today. So anything that you add that maybe uses one of these transitions, but where you're bringing in the other side to your argument, you would just type that here in slide 25 in a different color font. And just like with Flash Draft number 1, I've given you 2 slides here. You don't have to use both of them. If you just use the one slide, that's fine. Slide 26 is just there for extra help. Now I have another distraction. I can't even. So again, this is your lesson for today, taking a look at what is a counterclaim, and then also constructing your Flash Draft number 2. We're going to be hanging out a lot with Flash Draft number 2 for the rest of the week. And if you'd like any feedback, please just send me an email and I will take a look. Have a good day, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye. And one final thing, don't forget that on Wednesday, I will be doing a Google Meet with each of my classes. I've posted the time in Classroom, so that'll be an opportunity too if you want to read your flash draft out loud, get some feedback from your peers and from me. That would be a really great opportunity. Okay, that's it for now. For real this time. Bye, guys.